wouldn't have believed it unless I found it, but this is Dumbo New York in Brooklyn.
The name catches people off guard. Like, is this a Disney elephant attraction? It's actually one of the most trendy neighborhoods in New York. Dumbo stands for Down Under the Manhattan Bridge Overpass. This neighborhood is sandwiched between two iconic New York City bridges, the Brooklyn Bridge and the Manhattan Bridge.
Dumbo is an old industrial area that has completely reinvented itself. Check it out. As you can see, walking the Brooklyn Bridge is one of the favorite things to do in New York City.
It's also one of the favorite ways to get to Dumbo from Manhattan.
Classic views of the Manhattan Bridge, as well as the New York skyline.
It's about a mile across the bridge, and a leisurely walk takes about 20 minutes.
We're at Washington and Front Street in Dumbo, and this is where everybody lines up to get their photos of the Manhattan Bridge. Dumbo has a nature trail that leads along the river that attracts a lot of people. It's gorgeous.
It's definitely a selfie place where you get that iconic background. As we walk along the shore, we see these cool, renovated industrial buildings. It's part of the Dumbo Historical District. In the early 20th century and the late 19th century, this was one of the busiest waterfronts in the world. Right on the water is Jane's Carousel, made by the Philadelphia Toboggan Company in 1922. Tickets are only $2.
In the middle of all the noise, there's this quiet oasis of a garden.
The renovated industrial building between Water Street and the river houses a food hall called Time Out Market. The market's filled to the brim with delicious food stalls run by some of the best restaurants in New York City. It's great to grab a bite and head to the rooftop to take in some of the best views of New York City.
Dumbo has a great flea market right underneath the bridge.
The outdoor flea market is held on Saturdays and Sundays, April through December. The Dumbo Archway is a popular location for film shoots. As well as the flea market, it also has art shows and live music. Now we go to another special place in Brooklyn. Back in time to 1650, when New York was known as New Netherlands. We're going to visit a Dutch settler home that was dismantled and installed in the Brooklyn Museum in 1964. It's believed to be one of the oldest houses in New York. The house originally stood in the town of Flatlands, one of the 6 rural towns that were to become the borough of Brooklyn. It's time to meet the Schencks. Dutch immigrant John Martinus Schenck built this red Dutch-style house that you see in 1677. But wait, there's more. His grandson, 100 years later, built the brown house that's now also in the Brooklyn Museum. Okay, here's another freaky part. My grandfather's mother was named Fanny Schenck. John Martinus Schenck, the guy who built the red house, migrated to America with his brother Roloff. According to the Ancestry.com research done by my mom, Roloff was my great-grandfather times 6. Small world indeed. So it turns out one of my relatives probably also stood outside this house, although in a different time and place.
The Schenck House in the Brooklyn Museum.
The text on the replica table runner translates to "on the back of eels," which is an excerpt from a journal of a Dutch explorer at the time the house was built. The entry describes how the New York harbor was so full of eels that one could walk from Brooklyn to Manhattan across their backs. The Schenck family owned the house for 3 generations, selling in 1784. The museum bought the house in 1952 with the commitment to disassemble it and reconstruct it in the museum, which it did about 10 years later. The house stood in its original location for about 275 years, which in the United States is a very long time. The brown house next door was built in 1775 by Nicholas Schenck in the Canarsie region of Brooklyn. For the last few years, it had been a concession stand at the Canarsie Neighborhood Park. The Nicholas House represents the 18th and 19th century features. The 2 houses represent how a Dutch family might have lived in Brooklyn over a 150-year period. We got the table set for you. Come back and visit anytime.
Hey folks, have fun. Be kind to what the universe brings into your life. And we'll see you later.